Solving one-step equations. The variable is an unknown value you are solving for. Variables are often represented by a letter and very commonly with the letter X. The four most common operations that are used with a variable include addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Addition uses our plus symbol. Subtraction uses a minus symbol. Division now can be shown a variety of different ways, including a division sign. So if we had 5 divided by 4, a fraction, 5/4, or a slash symbol, 5/4. All of those indicate division. And then multiplication is most commonly shown when a number and a letter is right next to each other. So for example here, 4 and X without a plus, minus, or division symbol. So here we're given the variable is X. And because it's right next to each other with no symbol in between, we know that the operation is multiplication. So again here, we're looking for the variable, which is the letter. And the operation is this plus symbol, which tells us it is addition. T divided by 3 equals 12. Our variable is T, and the operation is division. And we know that because of the fraction bar. 4 equals C minus 8. So our variable is our letter C, and we have the minus symbol, which tells us subtraction. Complete the next 3 all by yourself. Now the inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of subtraction is addition. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. And the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So if we want to undo addition, then we would use subtraction. For the equation 9 equals 3x. Again, we know the variable is our letter, in this case X, and we know that the 3 and the X are right next to each other with no symbol in between, which tells us we are multiplying. Now the inverse of this multiplication is to divide by 3. And we know divide by 3 because 3 is the number that's next to our X. Here, in our second equation, we have m plus 8 equals 12. Our variable is the letter M, and we have a plus symbol. And that plus symbol tells us we should be adding. And so the inverse of addition is subtraction. And we're going to subtract 8. In our third equation, t over 4 equals 12. Our variable is the letter T. We know that the fraction bar indicates division. The opposite, or the inverse of division, is multiplication. And here, since we're dividing by 4, the inverse would be to multiply by 4. And then the last equation, 4 equals C minus 3. C is our variable. C has a minus 3, so it'd be subtraction. So the inverse of subtraction is addition, so we would add 3. Now showing your work is really important. When you solve an equation, anyone should be able to follow your work and understand the steps you took. It's like reading in English. If you know algebra, then you should be able to see the steps that someone else is doing and be able to follow that. Poor grammar, so not showing your work, might be okay for easy questions like one-step equations, but later on when you have much more complicated equations that we will eventually be solving, it will be much more challenging. Here's some examples for how we should be showing our work when we solve equations. So, our one-step addition example, y plus 14 equals 20. Our variable here is y, and our operation is the plus symbol, which is addition. We know that the opposite of addition is subtraction. And here, subtracting 14. So here it says to rewrite the equation and solve the equation showing proper work. So y plus 14 equals 20. Now, the inverse operation is what we need to do. In order to get y all by itself, we need to undo the plus 14. And in order to undo that plus 14, we're going to subtract 14 from both sides. Now I'm subtracting from both sides because we have to maintain the equal sign. If we do something to one side, we have to do it on the other side as well. So here, 14 minus 14 cancels out to 0, and our y comes down. 20 minus 14 is 6, so we're left with y equals 6, and that's our final answer. You know that you have your final answer when you have a variable on one side and a single number on the other side. When we're doing a one-step subtraction example, we know that x is our variable, and the symbol in between our x and the number is a minus symbol, so it tells us we are subtracting. And the inverse of subtraction is addition. And here we're going to be adding 120. So when we rewrite this equation, x minus 120 equals 80, we're going to be doing the inverse of that minus 120, which is a plus 120. We're adding 120. Negative 120 plus 120 goes to 0. The x drops down, and x is equal to 200. Now, one-step multiplication example. We know that the variable, again, is our letter, so in this case, n. The operation is multiplication. And it's being multiplied by 3 because they're right next to each other with no symbol in between them. Now the inverse of multiplication is division. And here we're going to divide by 3. So if we have 3n equals 12 here, we use this fraction bar to indicate division. 3 divided by 3, 12 divided by 3. And 3 divided by 3 goes to 1. So we have 1n equals 4. So our final answer, n, is equal to 4. And our one-step division example. We have our variable is k. And our operation here, we have this fraction symbol. So the operation is division. The inverse of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. So here we're going to show that multiplication by 2 using these dots, which indicate multiplication. Now this is 2 times a 1/2. So this and this cancels each other out. And again, we're left with 1k equals 32. So our final answer is k equals 32. Here are 8 questions for you to try. We're going to go through 2 more examples together. So in this equation, you have 26 equals 8 plus v. So here we know that the variable is v. I can actually rewrite this so that I have my variable come first and then my number. Now here, I know that my variable is v. I know the operation is being added by 8, so my inverse will be to subtract 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 on this side, subtract 8 on this side, and v will equal 18. Okay, so similarly here, if it helps me, I can rearrange the order. I know that my p is positive, my 3 is positive, so I can just rewrite it like that. Now here, I know that my variable is p. The operation is to add 3, and so the inverse will be to subtract 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. 3 minus 3 goes away. My p comes down. And then my final answer is p equals 5. Okay. Spend some time doing these next 6 questions on your own.